Words fail, words fail, there's nothing I can say.
Honestly, I spent the whole show being like, oh, that's so cute, and I'm empty and sad. In this video, I would like to give a trigger warning to depression, anxiety, suicide. So if those topics might trigger you, this might not be the video for you. Hi everybody, how are you? I hope you're very, very well. So this week I went to see Dear Evan Hansen in London. Woo! Now, if anybody has seen my videos before, or if you followed me for a while, you would know that as soon as I heard Dear Evan Hansen, I fell in love with it, and then I spent a lot of money to see it in New York, like the most I've spent on a show in all my time going to New York. And it was because I was like, I have to see this, and I didn't think I would get a chance any other way. So anyway, I saw it on Broadway with my friend Lewis about a year and a half ago, maybe? Yeah. And to be honest, I was a little disappointed. I wasn't really moved. I don't know, it just didn't hit me. And I kind of fell out of love with the show. I stopped listening to it. I mean, Sincerely Me is always on my playlist, whatever's happening, because it's a bop. And also, whenever there's a silent gap of just me at home, I'll just burst out into multiple times a day. But overall, I kind of fell out of love with the show. And when it was like, it's coming to London, I was like, that's cool, but I probably won't see it. And then the other day, I got an invite to go to like an invited performance of Dear Evan Hansen. So I was like, great opportunity. So I went along with my friend Will. And before we were going up, he was like, I feel like I might cry at this show. And I was like, you won't cry. And he was like, no, honestly, I feel like it's gonna hit me. And I was like, honey, you won't cry at this show. It's not that emotional. I have had to eat my words and wipe my tears because, honest to God, I was a mess.
Well, I thought I wouldn't cry. I was lying.
Amy, I need a hug.
I'm sorry.
Give me a hug. Amy. Amy. Hold me. I'm so not okay.
And I want to talk about that because I feel like it was a really interesting experience for me in two massive ways. For like the way that I saw the show and saw Evan, and the way that I just experienced the show and the different things that go on with your life that kind of influence how you feel about a show. I went to the after party, I know, I felt pretty bougie, and they gave us a notepad, so I wrote down all of my thoughts in this notepad. A little sidebar as well, there's a lady called Nicolle who like arranged the event with the PR company that she worked for, and she was a complete and utter babe. And do you know what, I go to like a lot of events and I often feel like it's very difficult to talk to people, it's a bit cringe, and she made it so easygoing. I got to talk to loads of people in the cast because she like introduced people, and I could see that she had a really good relationship with the cast as well, and I think that's really important. So I just thought I would share that. And everyone was lovely. I will get to an actual like specific kind of discussion of like a mini little review of the show for those of you interested a little bit further on, but I was just going to talk about the themes. And I suppose this video is for people who have maybe seen the show and didn't like it, or see the faults in the character of Evan, and it's just, I suppose, to talk it round to you. So I suppose the thing is, with Dear Evan Hansen, you've got two really opposing sides. I feel like you've got the people who love it, hardcore fans, and then you've got people who are like, Evan Hansen is a bad person, whatever. And that's just how they see it. I've seen lots of people like, oh, well, I have social anxiety, but I don't lie about being friends with dead people. And I think to see it as so black and white is wrong. I've never seen it that way, but I also didn't really care about Evan when I saw the show on Broadway. I don't know. I'll get into it. I think in this production specifically, you do really see kind of the anguish in what Evan is doing. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to give a little breakdown of the show. So basically, Evan Hansen is a boy in high school. He has no friends. He's really struggling. He has social anxiety, and he is going to a therapist who says, please will you write these letters to yourself, trying to kind of put him in a positive outlook, trying to encourage him to speak to other people at school, to make more friends, etc. And he is an only child. His mum is always working because she's a single parent trying to raise her son and just like make a living. And his dad lives in Colorado with his new family. Anyway, at school there's this boy who he's kind of like what we would call like an emo, I suppose. A bit of a loner, also doesn't have any friends really. And he finds the letter and he's very paranoid. He kills himself and then takes one of the letters that Evan has written to himself, has it with him when he dies. So his mum and dad then find the letter and it says, "Dear Evan Hansen, it's from your dearest or best friend or whatever." So they think, oh god, this is a suicide note to Evan, my secret best friend. Evan goes to the house and he's like, no, that's not how it happened. They're like, no, it's okay. And he clearly doesn't know what to do. So he's like, yeah, no, we were friends. And he's trying to make them feel better because he sees this broken family, but he lies. So people have big issues with that, obviously. And then it kind of spirals out of control. It becomes this big like online thing. Evan starts doing a lot better with his anxiety. He like stops taking his medication, starts spending a load of time with the Murphys, who are the family of Connor, who committed suicide. So yeah, I feel like you really see the anguish in Evan. I think in this production, specifically in the scene where Evan goes and speaks to the Murphys and they say, we found this suicide note addressed to you, you know, your best friends. He has Connor written on his arm, on his cast. So obviously, like, to the outside eye, you would think, oh my god, they're best friends. Obviously, Evan's like, no, that's not how it is. And they're like, no, it's okay. The thing is, he's a teenager, right? He has social anxiety. When I was a teenager, I used to lie about crap as well. I didn't really think of the consequences. And I think it's really important, actually, that he is a flawed character because so often in TV shows, musicals, films, you see the lead role as like a flawless character, I suppose. I think it's really important actually for people to see, yeah, that is a flawed person. I used to make up rubbish when I was a teenager. It was just not true because I thought it sounded more interesting than what was true. And I didn't have social anxiety or I wasn't struggling with the family of someone who's just committed suicide. I think from my perspective, I can understand why he did what he did. I don't think it was a good decision and I don't think it was the right decision, but I understand why he did it. And I think to just see Evan as, oh no, Evan's bad, he just did that so that he could fit in and so he could go out with Zoe Murphy, it's like a bit basic to just see it as that. I think that he was trying to make someone feel better. I think that that was his goal in that moment. He was trying to make someone feel better. And I would say that Sam, who plays Evan, I think maybe as well, the reason I found it so believable is because he looks like a little teenager. Like, he looks really young and you kind of see that in him. Whereas if you see like an older looking Evan, you kind of see him through an adult's viewpoint, if that makes any sense. I'm not very good at describing things, so this is probably like not the best video, but whatever. I think obviously lying about being friends with Connor is a bad thing, but I think the real issue with Evan is the way that he then lets it kind of escalate and then the way he starts treating other people, because obviously like the way he treats Alana and Jared are probably the things that made me feel the most angry towards Evan, I suppose, because like Alana and Jared are both obviously people who are struggling with feeling misunderstood, not feeling that they connect with people, and I really kind of saw the vulnerability in them as well. I also did a video, the first Dear Evan Hansen video I ever did. I was talking about Jared and I was like, but Jared's really annoying because no one deserves to be forgotten. Even Jared, and he's really annoying. And people got very angry with me. And I have to say, I now am also angry with me. I really like Jared these days. So just so you know, that's just a little sidebar. I think a really interesting thing for me as well is the focus on Evan's depression that he had as well, and obviously the reason why he broke his arm and being in the tree. And I think that like hit a different way. Obviously, like, I'm not one to really talk about like negative things too much in my own personal life, but like maybe like between the last time I saw the show and the time now, I've gone through some hard stuff and definitely felt those kinds of feelings as well. And I think that like that was why I maybe connected so much more with the show this time. I don't know, I truly believed so much in Evan, and obviously that's down to Sam's portrayal and how kind of honest and real it was. It didn't feel like watching somebody playing a role. It looked like watching a person, which is obviously what you want from theatre. And that was the real moments of, you know, when they were talking about feeling lost or lonely or like not being able to connect with people. And I think that was the thing that really kind of got me with the show this time, whereas last time, I don't know, I just didn't connect with it at all. Obviously it's the same production, it's the same direction, it's the same set, it's the same costumes, it's just different people. I don't know, like, I suppose maybe because the show is so new and the cast is still quite new to it as well, it feels very fresh. Whereas I obviously saw Dear Evan Hansen like 2 years into its run, so that is different, but I'll get onto that as well. I think this production made me see the songs with a lot more kind of clarity and understanding as well. Obviously, I know all the words to the songs and I don't know, you know that all the songs and everything, but Disappear and Requiem, I've always said, oh, they're such boring songs. Amy! Oh, I have so many regrets, honestly. When people are like, you just don't know, I'm like, whatever. I literally didn't know. Those two particular songs as well, I don't know, they hit me really hard. Honestly, I spent the whole show being like, oh, that's so cute, and I'm empty and sad. I think something that is great about the show is how layered all of the characters are. You see everybody from a different perspective, and you know, for example, Alana, when you first see Alana, you think, God, you're a bit annoying. But as you go on, you see that's all coping mechanisms to deal with the fact that she feels like she's never good enough, and that she feels like she doesn't really have real friend connections, and she doesn't want to fade into nothing, and she wants to make something happen, and she works hard for it, and she's such a layered character, and she's a character that, to be honest, beforehand I didn't really see as a huge part of the show, which is ridiculous because it's such a small company. I don't know, I just wasn't moved when I saw it. Like I mentioned about Jared as well, I originally had seen Jared as like the annoying person. He's not very nice to Evan, and he's just like, yeah, not very nice, a bit annoying. But again, you see him from a different perspective as well, as like the way that he was treating Evan was because he was feeling like he didn't have friends, and it gave him some kind of superiority to make somebody else feel crap, which isn't obviously right, but it's something that teenagers do. And I think that's the real fantastic part about this production, is I think the casting for it is phenomenal. Everyone is so right for the role, and everyone is so believable in their role. I think it really helps when people look like the age that they are supposed to be playing. Like I mentioned earlier, I find it hard to empathise with Evan as a teenager making mistakes without worldly experience and without the kind of maturity that you have when you grow up. I find it a lot harder to kind of empathise with that when he looks like an adult man, or when he looks just a bit older, you know, whereas I think Sam looks like a teenager, especially when he stood next to Rupert playing Connor's dad. When they do like To Break in a Glove, it really does look like an adult man and a young teenage boy. I don't know if this is making sense, but it makes sense to me. Heidi as well, Evan's mum, you see different perspectives for her. I always think that Heidi is a very outwardly, like, you can see all of the sides of her very clearly, whereas the others, maybe it takes a little bit more time. Takes a little patience. Takes a little time. But you know who really broke my heart was Connor's mum. My God, Lauren Ward. So Lauren Ward, who played Connor's mum, I mean, she cried for like the whole show. I felt really invested in their relationship, like Connor's mum and dad, and the way that it both tore them apart and brought them together with everything that happened with Connor. It really made me think as well about the way that I consume theatre, if that makes any sense and is not just like the wanky wankiest sentence I've ever said. So when I saw the show on Broadway, it was in the summer. We all know I found that trip very difficult because it was so warm. I don't deal very well with the heat. And also, I saw 10 shows in 7 days. I know that is massive privilege, I'm aware. I mean, it was too much. It was ridiculous. And by the end, I don't feel like I was really enjoying shows the way that I should have been doing. Dear Evan Hansen was one of the last shows that we saw, and I was so over it all. I was so tired because we weren't asleep. Anyway, but what I think the other night showed me is how important it is for me to go in to seeing a show and the way that you're kind of ready to receive the material.
This sounds so wonky.
I was actually discussing this with Marcus, who is the alternate Evan. We were discussing about the different ways that you kind of receive theatre and how I think that I wasn't in the right headspace to maybe receive such a heavy show and to kind of see the layers that are in that performance, because there's so many layers to it. And on Monday it was a real like eye-opening experience for me. As I say, I don't know, I find that fascinating. You know, why did I receive the material so much better this time than the other? Was it the performers? Was it the headspace I was in personally? I would be really interested to know if you've ever experienced anything like that, if you've seen a show and it hasn't really moved you and then you've seen it again. It's like I saw a different show and I saw it as a different person and like through a different personality from even myself. I don't know, it's so interesting to me. So I did say that I would give like a mini review to the show as well, so I mean I've basically said it anyway, but I did think it was pretty much perfection. I couldn't really fault anything with it, to be honest. And I definitely see shows with like a critical eye, and I suppose I was maybe going into this production like, well, go on, entertain me. Or maybe I was going in with like a, well, you know, I don't think I'll love it. I think it'll be interesting to see the new performances and everything. Oh, I just loved it. I just loved it, honestly. So full of tears. I think that's what really shocked me as well, because I was not expecting that. I don't know, I do cry a lot more now. I used to not cry at anything, and now, wow, I cry at everything. That's what... No, don't open that door, Amy. Yeah, I loved it. Sam, who plays Evan, as I say, is just, he's fantastic. He gives like a really nuanced performance. Like, this is like his first major job out after drama school, and my god, like, that man can act. He has like lots of kind of tics and twitches that I think could go over the top, but they didn't. They were just on the fine line of like being very believable, because I've definitely seen people who have those similar tics and kind of twitches and things in real life. And as I was watching, I thought it's really interesting because this is a quite big theatre, the Noel Coward, and I was in like the middle of the stalls, or the orchestra if you are from the US. I could see everything very, very clearly, and in real minute detail. They were big movements, but it wasn't over the top, if that makes any sense. Because I've seen other people do covers of waving through a window, for example, and like doing lots of twitching and stuff, and it always comes across quite contrived, not very real for me. I just thought that what Sam did was fantastic, and his voice is brilliant. He has like, on his open vowels, he's got a real Ben Platt sound. He doesn't do like as much vibrato as Ben Platt, which I actually really like, and he had some of his own little riffs in there. I tell you, I was like, girl, I'm a fan. So yes, big fan of those riffs. I just thought he did a great job, but he didn't like overdo it in any way. He was just very real. It's hard to describe, I suppose. I was really, really super impressed with his performance. I think for somebody who's like just come out of drama school, you think, what are you gonna do next, son? You're gonna be a superstar. I mean, I loved everybody. Nicolle playing Alana has the most beautiful voice. Oh my goodness. Lucy playing Zoe did an amazing job. She had a gorgeous voice, and she really made me see kind of the pain and the anguish of losing somebody, and then obviously everybody being like, oh well, this person was amazing, and if that person never treated you right, you know, the struggle that people feel with that, because that's a very valid thing that happens and is something that, you know, I understand on a personal level, and I had never really seen it that way before. Obviously that's literally what Requiem is about, but I never kind of, I don't know, it never connected with me. me, but she was fantastic. I mean, as I say, everybody was brilliant. Rebecca McInnes as Heidi was just outstanding. Her vocals were insane, but she was so real. I always find the clips I've seen of Heidi, you know, at the very beginning of the show, at the top of Does Anybody Have a Map? I always think it comes across a bit fake, but she was so real with him, and it looked like a real mother and son. I don't know, I think they're just all great actors, and that's so important to me. Like, I love a good vocal, obviously, it's what I always talk about, but for me, having a good vocal is irrelevant if you're not telling the story. Do you know what I really loved? You Will Be Found, when all the lights were shining and the music was really loud. And sometimes when I see shows as well, if it's like so intense musical theatre, my body's like, ah! Because I just love musicals so much. I'm such a geek. But you know when just everything's coming together really great in a musical and you're like, this is why I love musicals. I had that moment multiple times. I had certain moments as well where I had goosebumps over my whole body. Just such a wonderful production. So in conclusion, I kind of regret I kind of regret, please take my finger out your mouth, regret the negative views that I've had of the show. And I would really like to see it again. I definitely will try to. I'd like to see some of the other Evans. I spoke to a couple of them at the after party and they were so lovely. So yeah, I'd definitely like to see it again. Oh, I just loved it. It's such a good show, isn't it? Oh, don't you just hate past me? Quite often I'll see shows and I'll start thinking about other things while I'm watching them. But there was only maybe like 2 moments where I like lost focus for a second. As I lost focus, I was like, I should do a video retracting my statements about Dear Evan Hansen because I regret them. My 2 biggest regrets are saying that Jared is annoying and is saying that it's a bad show. The overall thing that I took away from it as well is that we're all human and all of those characters are very multi-dimensional and very real, and I saw myself in moments on the stage that really hit me, and that showed me how important representation is on stage. Obviously representation is always important on stage for people in the audience to see themselves. It really kind of, I don't have the words fail, but definitely seeing moments of yourself or just like versions of yourself on stage, it just reminded me like about the importance of representation. As I say, it showed me that like we all make mistakes and it's how we then respond to those mistakes. Obviously Evan made a bad mistake in like letting this lie grow, and that was like obviously his mistake, and then it got so much worse with the way that he then let that kind of affect his life and let it change how he treated Alana and Jared and his mum. But then it's about how you turn it around, how you apologize, how you make amends, and how you kind of move forward. I like that this show doesn't end with like a perfect happy ending. It ends with a very real ending of like, he didn't get to go to like an amazing college and he didn't end up with the girl, and I think that's like really appropriate and really right, because you see a very real way of life. You know, life doesn't always end up the way that you want it. I think that's really important. I would be really interested to know if this video made any sense and if you've seen the show and what your opinions are. If you haven't seen the show and if this would maybe make you change your mind. I love it. I'm definitely going back. So yeah, have you seen the London production? Did you just see it in America? Did you see a tour production? Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I know it's a bit different than what I would normally do, but I hope that's okay. We'll be back to regular silly content very soon. Let me know what you all think. If you would like to subscribe, that would be very, very nice. And if you already are, thanks so much. Anywho, I will see you soon. I love you lots. Bye!